I've been surprised by the three people who've gone. I mean, I think those three women were great, and I would have kept them in much longer myself.
Hello, welcome back to Jungle Confidential, the Mail's podcast and your place to hear all of the I'm A Celeb gossip. Today, I've got 2007's King of the Jungle, Christopher Biggins, with me again. Morning, Christopher.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It seems a really long time ago since we last spoke. A lot's happened since then, hasn't it?
I know. A lot's happened.
I mean, last night we saw your friend Sue Cleaver.
I know. I was surprised at that. I wasn't surprised by her reaction, which was absolute excitement at going. But I was surprised she went so early. I would have kept her in a bit longer because I think she's been rather good.
Do you? She's the third woman to go in 3 days.
Very interesting. The third woman, I know.
Why do you think that is? I mean, the first two black women went consecutively, prompting lots of sort of, racism. Is there racism going on here? But then we saw another woman go. And I sort of wonder if it's actually sexism, misogyny going on here from the British public.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm not sure. I can't think it's sexism. I mean, I would be very surprised if it was. But it is odd, I must say, that none of the men have been touched yet. I mean, I thought that, for instance, Matt would have been my choice to go first. The trouble is, everyone hates him and no one wants him to be there, but he's been bloody good at what he's done.
Yeah.
If he wasn't who he is, he would be fabulous, and I'd put him down to win. But he won't win. He won't win. I cannot. If he wins, I'll eat my. What will I eat? I'll eat my computer. He just won't win. But he may now go right through to the end. I mean, because when I started this, my three top people to be in the final were Jill Scott, who I still think has a chance. I think she's been terrific. I thought when she did the drinking thing with Mike Tindall, that was phenomenal. I mean, how they did that. And she's got such a good sense of humor. And I really, really do like her. And then I think that Mike Tindall. I definitely was going to be Mike Tindall. Yeah. And my third, who was my third?
Charlene, wasn't it? You really liked Charlene.
I like Charlene, but I thought she wouldn't be in the last three. But I thought Baba. I love Baba.
Yeah, he's been great, hasn't he? He's been very fun.
Great. Now, you have an interesting choice for a winner, don't you?
Yes, Owen Warner is my favourite. He's also the bookies' favourite to win. Not that I'm copying the bookies. I've liked Owen all along, actually. But
is it a sexual thing?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, he's so amazing. And he's so funny. He's lovely to look at, isn't he? But we shouldn't say that, should we? But he is also, last night he got 9 stars. I mean, he did really well last night. He did that horrendous trial, Boiling Point, which of course Chris Moyles got 1 star for last week. And Owen just kind of struts up there, doesn't he? I mean, I know he's probably less than half Chris Moyles' age, but he just kind of gets on with it, doesn't he? And I think, isn't that the secret to staying in, just getting on with it?
Yeah, that is the secret. But I think the trouble is that having Matt in there takes away from everybody else, because he has become the star. And, people like Mike Tindall haven't been able to show themselves, apart from when they wore their budgie snappers.
The things he has to do to get some attention, hey?
I know. But I do think he is the brightest and cleverest and funny and everything. But he's not been shown by the editors of the programme as to how good he is. But anyway, we'll see now. I mean, I've been surprised by the three people who've gone. I mean, I think those three women were great, and I would have kept them in much longer myself.
I guess this is the problem, isn't it? It is down to the public to vote.
Yeah,
but then it's the public that say, "Oh my God, I can't believe that so and so went," and you're like, "Well, vote then." These people are usually the ones that aren't voting.
I think that's especially when the voting is in the early days, like it is now. I think people don't think ahead as to who may go. And I think there've been a lot of people who've been very surprised by the people who've gone.
And why do you think they've gone? Why do you think Charlene went?
Well, I think Charlene had an unfortunate day where she said, "I'm a celebrity, get me out of here," when she was doing her trial. And I think that didn't go down well, probably with the public. And I think also because she was a bit bossy, she decided to be the cook, which a lot of people were presented, especially Boy George. I'm surprised Boy George hasn't gone yet, because he gets very, what's the word? He really is a force in there. And sometimes it's not a good force. Sometimes he's being a bit negative, and he's certainly outspoken. I mean, I think, the contretemps he had with Matt was very interesting.
No, I agree. I mean, I kind of feel like Boy George's only trick is to slag off Matt Hancock.
Yeah,
and it got a bit boring, didn't it?
It did. That's why I thought that Boy George might go. I think he could be the first man to go, funnily enough.
Yeah, I mean, obviously last night he was in the bottom two, wasn't he? It could have been him. Oh, does it not?
Oh, no,
I thought that meant that they also had a low number of votes.
No. If you remember, they say in no particular order.
Of course they do. Those.
And so that is not
4 words.
So no, that he wasn't. He wasn't. He was just put there to make it look interesting, as he might go.
Right. Okay.
So
I see.
That again is the producer's thing. But no, it's not the two with the least. It's only that only happens at the end.
Oh, right. I see. Okay. So
That's the last two.
So your friend Sue went last night. Now, she was delighted. Obviously, we saw Scarlett the night before on Sunday night. She was devastated, wasn't she? Poor woman. I mean, she really didn't want to go, did she?
And I was surprised she went, because she's really enjoyed it. She's really gone for it. She's a good person, and I think she's been terrific. And I was impressed by her.
Yeah, no, I agree. I actually thought she could make the final. I thought she was lovely and funny, and got involved. So obviously we're now, way into the 13th day we're on now. How are they feeling now? I mean, it must be getting difficult now. Obviously, because you were in there till the end, Christopher. How does it start getting tougher around this time?
It does, because you're tired. You're lacking in food, and you've been through the mill. And if you're not doing trials, it's very tedious. So it does get to the point where you think, actually, I do want to go home now. I want a bit of comfort. I want to go to the Versace hotel and relax. And of course, if you win it, you only get one night there.
Yeah, it's not really fair, is it? You think if you go out first, you have a nicer time. They're all starting to look really skinny now, aren't they? I mean, poor Jill Scott. I mean, she's a slim lady anyway, but I mean, she looks like skin and bone. I mean, did you lose lots of weight in there?
2 stone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was great. It was great for losing weight.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, you do feel. I mean, I remember when I did win, and I went, and Neil and I, my partner, we met on the bridge, and we had the first, I think, gay kiss for ITV in that program. And then we went back to the hotel, and the first thing I did was have a bath, because you do smell. I mean, it is disgusting. And so a bath, I never have baths, I hate baths. I had a bath, and then I had a shower. And so I felt a bit more human. And then I had a hamburger.
Oh.
But the trouble was, when I don't know whether they're going to do it this year, the penultimate sort of trial you do is an eating one, where they give you food. The last 3 was, we were there, and it was Jay from the pop group Five, and we all had to eat. We had to do 3 last trials, and then we were given food. We were given a starter, a main course, and pudding. And it was fantastic to have food. But he was so hungry, and he was a young boy. He ate so much that he made himself physically ill. And he nearly had to go to hospital, but he didn't. But he couldn't do the last trial So it was very worrying. I mean, we were all very worried about him, but he just threw everything down. I think he ate the cutlery and the plates. So he was, oh boy, was unbelievable. But anyway, then you do that, and then it was Janice Dickinson and myself, and then and I was convinced that Janice had won, as Janice was convinced she'd won. And then when they said, and this year's King of the Jungle, then she pretended she was thrilled. She wasn't. She left immediately, went to the airport, went back to America. Very, very poor loser. And she that's how she reacted.
What did she say to you then after you were crowned King of the Jungle? Obviously, you must have seen her before she flounced off back to America.
Oh, I did, and she smiled and kissed me and what have you. All false. All you could tell that she couldn't believe she'd got to this stage and that someone like me had won it. So and I've checked with the producer afterwards when she left, and I said, was there much between us? And she said, oh my, you were way ahead with the votes. You got more than votes than we've ever had. So it was very interesting.
Oh really? Well, oh gosh, she wouldn't have liked that, would she, if she knew how many more votes you got than her?
She would have been, well, she was furious, absolutely furious.
Golly, that's really sore, isn't it? I wonder if that happens very often. You say about, obviously, you don't eat properly for a really long time. Do they warn you? Do the producers warn you, to sort of eat slowly? Is that part of what you should do?
No, I mean, they don't warn you at all. But I tell you what, I knew personally that I'd always been one of the favourites for the boys, Anton Deck, to be in the show. So I knew... because I always do pantomime, I couldn't do it. So they booked me in January for the following November. And so I had a year to and I went on a diet 3 months beforehand. And I really conditioned my body to not crave food as much as I usually do, because I love my food. So I did do that, and that helped enormously, I think, from the hunger point of view.
That's very organised of you. So back to the camp. We mentioned Matt Hancock briefly earlier. Why do you think he's staying in? I mean, I said look, I think we are seeing less of him. I think ITV producers have clearly realised that there are other people in the camp now. But last week it was like the Matt Hancock show, wasn't it? Sort of 3 or 4 days consecutively.
The thing is, what he's doing, which is very, I don't think he's clever enough to be. This is a way of doing it, but he's doing everything brilliantly. I mean, however much you may hate him and be against the fact he's in the jungle, he is a player. And he goes for it. I mean, he really does go for it. He gets all the stars he can get, possibly, and so he's feeding the camp. He's charming, and I think he's won round a lot of the people in the camp. I think he's certainly winning the audience. And but I don't understand why, because the best thing, I think, would have been if he'd been first to go out, because that would have been... Whenever you play any of these games, the first person out, you don't want. You don't want to be first person out. It's humiliating. And so that is interesting, because I thought they'd humiliate him by putting first out, but they didn't.
Well, I think that's, he thought he could go in there, didn't he, and change people's perceptions of him. And it feels like he's managed to do that.
I know, I agree. But I mean, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. How far he'll go now. I mean, he'll probably go to the last 3, which is again is the pivotal thing, because the last 3 are the real stars of the whole show. I mean, because they then go on and no, I think there's 5 of them, isn't it, who do the wonderful thing where they have to climb up the ramp and the water comes down over them and it flushes them back down again. I mean, that was my favourite thing of all. I never laughed so much.
That looks really fun, doesn't it?
I was the first to go up, and I had my 5 stars, and I got them up to where I should have been, and then suddenly I saw Gollum come from behind me, and Gollum was Janice Dickinson, who was this funny creature, looking like Gollum from the film, and she came up and took 4 of my stars and went past, and that made me. I mean, the whole thing was just wonderful. That last trial.
So you think Matt's going to make the last three?
Well, he could do. I mean, the way the voting is going, I mean, I'm fascinated what the public are thinking about.
It's getting quite tough in there, isn't it? Because, you know, we both love Jill. You know, we both love Mike Tindall. Yeah. I love Owen. And then we've got Matt Hancock. I mean, Chris Moyles. I really hope Chris Moyles goes tonight. I'm really not enjoying watching Chris Moyles.
No, nor am I. And I don't know what it is, because and also the other guy is Sean, who is annoying me because he just laughs. Mind you, I laugh all the time, but he laughs all the time, and it's sort of a little bit insincere, I fear. You know, I don't believe the laugh. I think it's put on, you know. I mean, the only time I loved his laugh was when he first went into the jungle, and then the second person came in was Matt. And his reaction was so wonderful. He just kept laughing. And I think that gave Matt the confidence because I think he thought, oh, this is good. This is someone who likes me. But this was someone who couldn't believe who he was in the jungle with. I mean, it was a wonderful moment, wonderful television.
He was very good, wasn't he, with Matt, Sean Walsh? And I did enjoy that episode a lot. But I think since then, he's annoying me too. I mean, he did that task last night, didn't he? Yes. And he was very irritating, I found too.
Very irritating, really irritating.
So who do you think will go tonight?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, I'm not convinced about the voting of the public. I just can't tell who's going to do it. I mean, I think I'd like either Chris Moyles or Sean Walsh to go. Those are my two, and I think it's about time we had a man go.
Yeah, why do men stay in longer than women? Why is that? Why do you think that is? I mean, obviously the public have the right to vote for whoever they want, but you've got to wonder why. Why are they?
Do you think it's to do with the fact that more women watch the show?
What, and women don't like women?
Yeah. And I think they want to get rid of the women, and I think they want to keep the totty, what they consider totties, in, you know. And I think that's something to look at.
Do you really think women? Do you really think women don't like other women, and they want to get rid of them?
Well, I think there are some. Yeah, I think there is a link going on there. Certainly at the moment, you know. But I don't know who watched the show. I mean, obviously it's watched by a lot of people. But I think possibly more women watch it. I mean, last night I was at the Variety Club Awards, and the number of people who came up to me was unbelievable. The public saying, "Oh, you were the best that year." The rats, which everyone talks about, when I slept with 200 rats. I mean, you know, it was, you know, people say, "Oh, we haven't had a laugh," and we if we want to laugh, we go to YouTube and put that sequence on it and really laugh. And so it's very interesting, but it's usually women who come up to me. And there was a man last night who absolutely went bananas when he saw me because, you know, he loved it so much. But it is interesting.
I also think women are much more likely to vote, aren't they, than men? I'm sure men don't sit there.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think it's within the man's capability of voting.
I think men watch it in a very different way. Sort of men probably sit there, don't they, rolling their eyes, pretending that they hate every minute of it, but they actually like it.
We've got competition now with the football.
Yes.
We did amazingly well. I mean, you know, it was a ridiculous score. But, you know, so it is up against each other. I think obviously the men want to watch the football mostly.
Yeah.
And the women are still with the jungle. So that could be a possibility.
Poor Jill Scott, of course, I'm sure would rather be watching the football than staying in the jungle. But do we both agree that she's the favourite to win? Well,
she's my favourite to win. I would love Jill. You know, she's losing so much weight, poor girl. I mean, she wasn't big anyway, you know, but she'll go mad when she gets food, proper food. I mean, you know, please make her the last three because she deserves it.
Well, I think as well, you know, to have a woman in that last three would be really, really wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
although
it would. And I think now we're going through the women so quickly. I mean, I think that, but Jill I've always liked her right from the very beginning. And she dances badly, she sings badly, but she really goes for it. And I would love to be in there with her.
Now, there's been a story reported this morning that Chris Moyles was making jokes about Ant McPartlin's alcoholism and that the producers had to cut them out. I suppose rather predictably, they're not going to let those go on air. you're very fond of Ant and Dec, aren't you? I mean, do you think that's a little bit disrespectful of Chris Moyles to do that?
Well, I think he's being trying to be tricky, and I think he's wrongly having a go at him. This season, I think Ant and Dec have loved being back in Australia, and they've been on top form. They've been brilliant this year. I think I've laughed more at them than I have of anything else. They've been fantastic.
Do you know if they have much help writing their scripts?
Oh, I think so. They have a script writer, yes. But they are, they've been together so long. And most of the stuff is about their relationship, and what they did the night before. And of course, they play an enormous amount of golf. I mean, they're all as soon as they leave, when the show finishes, and it's about 9 o'clock their time in the morning, they go off and have a coffee and breakfast and go and play golf all day. I mean,
they live the dream, don't they, when they're out there?
They really do. They really do. And but they work hard. So there's a team who try and get the best out of them, and of course they always succeed.
Do you stay into contact with Ant and Dec?
Well, I don't see them, but when I see them, it's always lovely to see them, and they are, I'm such fans, and they're terrific. And the way they if you do trials, the way they really handle you is absolutely brilliant. I mean, they of course are looking on the side of the producers and want the best out of the trials. They want you to suffer, and they want you to really go through the mill, and they're brilliant at laughing at our misfortune of having to do a trial.
So finally, what two campmates do you think are going to be in the final? Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, I would like it to be Mike Tindall and Jill Scott, but I think Mike has to improve his game this week, or the editors have to let him come through.
Do you think that there's an element of Mike being quiet because he's worried about saying the wrong thing? Family. Yeah, because of the royal family.
It could be, I suppose. It could be. I wonder if Sarah said to him, "Now, try and keep the royal family as out of it as much as you can." But I know Mike, and he is a brilliant guy. He's funny, and that hasn't been able to come through, I'm afraid, on this series. But he is brilliantly funny, and I think I'm supporting him because I know him, but I do think he's a great guy, and I think he's all male. Do you know what I mean? And he's terrific. It's a bit like you and Owen.
Oh, I get you. He's buff, isn't he? He does his press ups every day, doesn't he? I'm sure Owen does too. I think about Mike and his. So I thought he would be the star of the show, and I do understand. Obviously, Matt Hancock's gone in and sort of taken over, but. I think if Mike was coming up with the goods and he was, saying the right, saying lots and getting really involved, I think ITV would make a thing of it. I kind of feel like he's not that engaged.
Yes, I suppose you could be right. But then we don't know because, I always say this, you are completely in the hands of the editors. And they can show, it might be that he's turning somersaults naked in the camp when he's picking up logs. We don't know because we're not seeing him, but he must be doing something in there. And I think, for instance, he had a great relationship with Sue Cleaver. I think they really got on well, and I think that he got on well with Charlene. And so it's very interesting that I don't think we're seeing the best of him because of the editors.
Wow, really? But I don't understand why they wouldn't edit him. That's a shame, isn't it? A real shame, because I think you and I would definitely like to see more of him. And just onto Boy George quickly. Boy George has been a bit of a letdown for me. I found him quite sort of bitchy and nasty, and I guess maybe some viewers like to see that.
And also, I think it was, very interesting that he was very angry about talking about his imprisonment. Which is, was a big thing in his career. Yes, he's a brilliant singer and personality, but he did do that, and he went to prison, and he had to do, security thing. And I think it was interesting because I think he should have been far nicer about it and said yes, or talked about, why he did it. I think he was embarrassed, funny enough, which I'm surprised at.
he was dreadfully mean to Scarlett Douglas for bringing it up, wasn't he?
I know, and I think that was wrong.
And I feel like he's been hypocritical, hasn't he? Because all he's been doing is the whole time is slagging Matt Hancock off for things that Matt Hancock has done. Yeah. Yet somebody dares question Boy George, and he gets in a huff about it.
Well, I think he's a diva, you know, and I think that's that's his pop career has made him that. You know, I mean, but he is, you know, he has been rather wonderful in the jungle, but I'm surprised that he hasn't gone. I think he may go too, quite soon.
So we're thinking Chris Moyle, Sean Walsh, and Boy George to go in the next few days.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed, hey?
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's so lovely to see you.
And you,
have a lovely day.
Care.
See you soon.
Enjoy the last few days.